Hello, and welcome to one of our mail episodes, which we love because we answer your questions. It's a really good way for us to interact with you, the listeners, and to remind us that we're not just speaking into the void or to each other, because I get bored of talking to Kieran, quite frankly. I'm only joking. How
I
could I?
get bored talking to myself.
Those voices in the head, man, you got to watch out for them. But
Yeah.
yeah, we do like these episodes, and yeah, they're a really good way for us to just stay connected. So it's all good. That's what we're all about: community and connection and all that. So yeah, I believe this question came in through the Instagram, which Kieran controls, and he just tells me every now and again, right, we need to do this or that, or this come in. We did actually answer it a few weeks ago, but we thought we answered it to the person who asked the question, but we thought we'd put it out. And Kieran, I hope you didn't forget to buy your flowers.
I bought my flowers, mate. Always do. Well, I might have told you before. I always do Flower Friday, so
Yeah.
we get flowers on a Friday in my house. But I did ask the appropriate people to be my Valentine, and they were accepting for I think like the 19th year now in a row, so it was all right.
Good.
I'll pass for another year.
Yeah, you've done it. Well done. And yeah, it's, I have my my thoughts on the whole Valentine's thing, but I'll save that for another time.
It's a great way to make money, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, let me jump into this question. I've got it written down here because you won't believe this, Sean, but I forgot my phone, so I can't read it off Instagram. So I've remembered it. So it says, since we have been going through treatment, my partner and I have been arguing more. How can we stop fertility from creating distance between us? I think, first off, the guy that reached out for this, it's a brave thing to do. You know, this is like really being vulnerable about your relationship, something that a lot of men take a lot of pride in. And definitely when I started going through treatment, I didn't want to talk to anyone about how it was affecting, Jen and mine's relationship. So, the reply that this guy got straight away was thank you for being open. And I hope this question helps people that are listening today, because it is that month of love, and it can be extremely difficult, a bit like Christmas when we spoke about Christmas a few months ago. Times of the year can be tricky. So, Sean, there's the question. What are we thinking?
I think it's one that anyone going through fertility treatment will resonate with, like because you're in the trenches for so long, and also like you don't often know how long it's going to go on for, which is one of the hardest bits. And actually, we did a webinar recently for Nexus, didn't we, on how to live in the wait. That was kind of more general about like how to keep living your life, but there are a lot of common strands through living that, and obviously as a byproduct, your relationship is there. But I think the key is for me, and I know it's almost like cliche, but as we've said before in the pod, cliches are there for a reason. They're true, but it's communication. That's really like where a very important starting point, because often it can break down, and the communication can just then start focusing on the treatment, and then it becomes like your project managers of that, and you just discuss the things where as and when they come up. And I think for me it's like regular check-ins, like in the evening, like just even if you've been busy all day, you haven't had much chance to chat, if you've both been at work or whatever, make sure you're checking in the evening, and just saying like, how's today gone for you? What do you need from me? Is there anything you need tomorrow? And then that kind of keeps your general everyday communication up. But also, like when it comes to appointments, don't just go to them, or if you have results given on the phone or whatever, like don't just receive that information and then move on. Like we always felt, well, I say always, this again, it was the thing that I learned is that we needed to communicate a bit more after these appointments, because I for a long time was just like a rabbit in headlights during them. And I learned that kind of playing a more active role in the appointment, or in receiving the like results or whatever on the phone, asking questions, it brought me more present. But then what we then started doing after was debriefing it, rather than just putting that appointment to the side and kind of ignoring it. We discussed it to make sure that we both understood what was happening, what had just been disseminated to us or delivered, and then kind of really debriefed it properly to then know that we needed to move on, or we could move on from that, before just kind of burying our head in the sand, and figuring out whether there were any unanswered questions that we needed to go back to the clinic with.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. And I was just thinking back then, like the first 2 cycles that me and Jen did, we didn't do that. We didn't like have that debriefing. I definitely wasn't open to it. We went and did whatever what was going on, an appointment, a treatment, stage of treatment, whatever. And then I got in the car and I was quiet. We might have mentioned 1 or 2 things, but we didn't say anything. And actually that, in reflection, added to how I was feeling, that sense of guilt, that sense of grief that I was feeling. And I know now that if I'd spoken out like I did in our 3rd cycle, after I kind of pressed the reset button, I would have found it easier. I really would have found it easier. They're not comfortable discussions. I think that's important to say sometimes, especially the first few, because you've got to show that bit of vulnerability in terms of, what am I thinking here? What am I thinking there? How can I tell someone, even though that individual truly loves you, you've got to open up. And we've talked about it 1,000 times. Like, in society, men aren't encouraged to do that, so it's an incredibly difficult thing to do initially, but you get used to it.
But I think
Like
also on that point, it's important to acknowledge that there are differences between men and women, and like, we as blokes don't need to then suddenly become a different, like, what we don't have in us. And this is a sweeping generalization, of course, but and then also it's not about women then becoming like what we do. It's about finding that common ground and communicating the differences and communicating what you as an individual, like, for example, this one guy that I've been talking to recently through my coaching, he's the sharer. He wants to talk, but his wife doesn't. So I
Interesting.
say about generalizations, yeah, and she's not always been available for him to be able to have those conversations that he wants. But it's about learning the differences. Like, when you want something, communicate it. Are your needs being met? Is there somewhere you can meet in the middle? And I think that is the key, is naming the differences between yourselves, as because of course, like, a couple is 2 individuals, and then you come together as the one, and just having that discussion about what you need and want, and what you don't need and want, and what, like, and then how it's like I say, meet in the middle, like a Venn diagram. There's going to be some area where you can both
Yeah,
find that agreement on.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's that, because we both you think differently to your partner. You just generally do, like you've just said. And if that isn't clearly communicated, that's when the arguments occur, because neither one is truly understanding what the other one's trying to say. We mentioned it in our talk in Edinburgh recently, didn't we? We went through that kind of script, that outline there. So it's all about clear communication. And another thing I'd say is to really help kind of move you on as a couple, try and spend time doing things outside of fertility. Like, you're still a
Oh,
couple.
it's so important.
Do you know what I mean? That is the gold dust. Like,
Yeah,
it's so hard to find. But actually, if you can find one evening a week, where we did, where we were just Jen and Kieran, but we
yeah,
had to plan it. We had to be proactive. Otherwise, fertility is all consuming. Life is what you focus on, and you can't help but focus on your fertility treatment when you're going through it. Like,
yeah,
it's a massive part of your life. But for one evening or 2 evenings a week, focus on something else.
yeah,
Purposely
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, literally, like you said, like, just set your bar as one evening a week where you just date or whatever, and you don't talk about fertility. Literally, that gets left at home, or even if you are staying at home, but it just gets left on a different table.
Mm,
And maybe, like, put your phones down as well. Just be present. And just talk about anything and everything, but, like, to rediscover your joys before fertility treatment. What was it you did as a couple before you knew you were going to walk into this absolute shit show?
Yeah.
Like, and then focus on that. What brought you joy before? Reinitiate that into your lives as a couple.
It's hard. It really is hard. I remember we went out for a curry, and we sat there, and I looked at Jen, and I was like, I don't know what to talk about. And I said it to her, and she was like, no, neither do I. So we just talked about work for a bit, and then before we knew it, we were talking about other things. But it was almost like a forced conversation initially. You have to force yourself to think outside of the fertility box.
Yeah, because it becomes
So,
so all-consuming, doesn't it? So you have
oh,
to break the pattern of it.
it does. Like, you're focused on having a child. That's your focus. It's a big focus in life. You could argue that in terms of how we are programmed as human beings, it is the main thing that we are programmed to do and want to do. So it's hard to go, right, I'm going to forget about that for an evening, but it's important. The more you do it, like with so many other things, the more you do it, the more you get used to it.
Yeah,
And
and
it,
I
it
think something you said earlier. You mentioned the word individual, and that stood out to me because it's like one thing that I do. I advocate this not just during fertility treatment, but still we do it now. And I think I mentioned as well, we are two individuals who make up a couple,
mm,
but I think it's important to still do things individually as well,
yeah,
because
yeah,
then that fills your cup. You go and do what brings you joy yourself, on whether it's like gym, seeing other friends, playing whatever else. I started playing paddle, like your classic middle-aged male
I got a meme to
activity.
send you.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it's good though because we just have a laugh, but
Yeah.
like that, doing that away from like Jenna, then gives me that, fills my cup. Like it gives me the time with my mates, or if it's time on my own exercising and stuff, that's what I then need to then come back and just feel more grounded and settled, and having done that something myself. So I think that's really important as well for me is that individual time.
Yeah, it's not actually the company is more important than the activity in that sense. Like, you can be doing something that maybe you don't necessarily you're overly motivated to do, but if you're in company and you're doing something individual, uh, away from the rest of your world, socializing with friends is incredibly powerful. You only have to look at the research to see how powerful socializing with other
Yeah.
men is.
Because again, that comes down to escaping the fertility stuff. Because it's like I said to my mates after I told them about it all, like 3 years in, I would go out and they would say, "Oh, like, how you doing? How's it all going?" And I would say, like, "Look, I really appreciate you asking, but tonight I need to forget about it and
Mm,
not talk about it, and you need that escape from it." It's like what you said about like date nights with your partner. You just need nights or days where it isn't the topic of every fucking conversation, because it
yeah,
becomes like that at home.
yeah, yeah. I remember thinking, "Is this ever going to end?" Like, it was that all-consuming that you just think, how long can you keep going around this same cycle? But actually, taking care of yourself. Firstly, communicate with your partner. If you don't think you're doing that efficiently, figure out how to do it, even in any means possible. Sit down, have that difficult conversation. I think once I wrote Jen a letter just because I found it easier to write it, and then left it in the morning, and she read it. And when I came home, I got the reaction to the letter. Um, prioritize time as a couple together away from fertility treatment, even though it will be hard. And then two, prioritize time. Three, prioritize time for yourself.
Yeah.
You are still an individual. When I was going through treatment, I was still Kieran. When you were going through treatment, you were still Sean. Even though you don't feel like that, you
Mm.
still are. You still are that individual, and you've kind of got to work to find that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think we've both said in the past, like we were years down the line until we sought help from anyone else. And
Yeah,
I'd say that as well, as a couple, don't wait until you're at crisis point before you seek help from like professionals or a third party, friend, whatever, coach. Even if it's again like as individuals, but then coming back together and maybe having a session together as well, because quite often people are at breaking point when they seek that help, but
Mm.
do it as part of a maintenance of a healthy relationship. Is like having a service, regular
Mm.
service. Outside of your annual MOT, I don't know where I'm going with that. I don't know
No, no,
enough
but
about cars to go to run any further with that analogy. But
but you're right. Like you have to relationships. You have to work on with whoever they are, whether they're with family members, whether with your partner, your wife, friends. They hit hard times, and you have to work on them. Good relationships are developed from stone, aren't they? Not marshmallows. You have to work on them. It's a difficult thing, but you reap the rewards at the end of it.
yeah, yeah, and of course, a big part of any relationship is intimacy, sex, which also becomes really hard during fertility treatment because there's all the pressure that's wrapped up in it. And I think first and foremost, anyone who is struggling with that, I would signpost to our episode with Kate Moyle,
Yeah,
who is a psychosexual therapist, and she's like, yeah, literally one of the country's leading sex therapists, for kind of want of a better phrase, like to shorten the title. So yeah, listen to that full episode. But the kind of headline is to remove the goal-based outcomes from that, because we talked about it on the episode with her. Is you become like a robot, expected to produce on demand, and there's so much pressure for men in that situation. Like
yeah. It's
before
incredibly
it,
tough.
during it, and then trying to like get to that, because it's quite obvious if we're not going to finish, or like if we don't, we can't fake it. Like
Mm,
so, it's once you get in your head and you're not experiencing it, you're not feeling it as the physical act that it is. Like once you're in your head and those voices start swirling of like, oh, this is happening again or whatever, or like that's when it's hard to get back from there, because yeah, it's a spiral.
yeah, yeah, it is, and it is incredibly tough. Like you said, the pressures of it all, the fact of it, just becomes routine, and it it's so unnatural. That feeling is so unnatural. But Kate's episode is a great one.
Yeah,
It's definitely worth listening to. I think it would do that small topic, even though it is a big topic in terms of the whole thing. Do it so much more justification than we could in a couple of minutes talk. So
yeah. I
if
think like the
anyone's
headlines are, it's just to like remove that goal, like that pressure of having to finish to
yeah
ejaculate, and strip it back to enjoying the touch, the like kind of
yeah
early stages, the cuddles, the kissing. Like that's still intimacy. Like we underplay that, I think, but the power of a good cuddle,
yeah
and
yeah
then or like just think like this time we're going to have a nice like kind of sexual massage or just foreplay. Stop removing the pressure to have full sex every time and to finish, and then work up, like and start enjoying the actual event again rather than dreading it, because oh, yeah, I was there, I get it.
it's one of those topics that I think as men we often want to rush to the end, don't we? We kind of get triggered, and then it's like, well, you want the end bit, but actually that bit, that foreplay, as you said, you definitely me as a man. I think sometimes it's you're quick to rush, and that's hormones and everything else, but you forget how enjoyable the early bit of it can be, and it's to actually use a bad situation to reconnect
Mm,
is
yeah,
an amazing thing. It definitely benefited our relationship.
but
Um,
that's something that can intertwine as well with like the date night that we talked about. Try and go back to how things might have been before you knew about the fertility stuff, and just yeah, make things as natural as possible without that overriding. And I say that knowing how hard it is, but it's making it's making that concerted effort to really strip things back and reconnect as a couple. Remember what you were like when you were in, like, even way back to the early days of dating and stuff, that
yeah,
exciting time.
yeah, yeah. Just trying to make it it's hard, and maybe it's a word that doesn't come with fertility a bit, but try and make things a bit more fun again. Like
Mm.
it's trying to revisit that the youth or the early stages, shall we say, that were a bit more exciting and things
Yeah.
like that. I'm not suggesting anyone go and have a quick bunk up in restaurant toilets and things though, because that's
Why
what
not? All
disabled
for it.
Lou.
Yeah, go for it.
So if
Wherever
we
and
get
however it
letters of
happens.
get letters of complaint saying I got caught in the toilet, I'd be like, send it to Sean.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it, mate. Crack on.
Yeah, mate. But like I said, like we've turned a serious situation, and you just got to be a little bit more light-hearted, even though it's so hard.
Yeah.
But it comes with time. It comes with continuously trying to practice it, and then eventually, it should all kind of click into place, and you feel a little bit. You will feel more connected with your
Mm.
partner, and
Well,
that.
any relationship needs work, like
Mm,
but when you add in something like fertility treatment on top, of course, it's a more conscious effort.
yeah. Well, I think we're about done for this mailbag. It
Yeah,
was a good one. It's relevant to the time of year, and it's something that I think everyone goes through.
yeah.
That relationship strain, and it won't be the last time we talk about this because
Well, it's
it's
like a
such a big
strand, isn't it? Like, I imagine pretty much everything we've said there has been covered at points throughout episodes, just even as a little side topic, because it is just a continuous theme throughout
Yeah.
fertility treatment. Is that the relationship aspect? So we should probably say how people send in the questions.
Oh yeah, we better do. You can send us an email at the male fertility podcast at gmail.com, or send us a message on Instagram, which is simply the male fertility podcast. I think we should also mention that on the 5th of March, we're in Manchester for a in-person meetup. So if you are Manchester based and you want to come along, hit up the Nexus Fertility website. All the information's on there, and it'd be great to see you.
That's the 5th of March 2026, because obviously people could be listening to this at any
Yeah,
point down the
we
road.
better mention a
But
date, otherwise it would become an annual thing. We've got to be
yeah,
there on.
but these meetups happen all the time. Every month we try and do one somewhere. So go to our website and see where the next one is, and join the community. Nexus Fertility. We've got a WhatsApp group. It's always on, really supportive, and you can fire your questions to us from that as well. And we can bring them to the fore for the wider audience here on the pod.
Yeah, amazing, man. It's going to be a good meetup in March. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. First time we've done Manchester, so and we've got quite a big section of the community there, haven't we? So
Mm.
it will be it'd be a great meetup.